Welcome to my session. In the next 30 minutes, I want to tell you something about how we can get a coexistence of Teams and Yammer. And I will share my story of my company, how we introduced these tools and how we implemented some rules. So it's quite easy for the users to decide which tool they should use for which purpose. A few words to introduce myself. My name is Nicole. I'm working for CONET, that's a company in Germany. Here on the side you see my books. So I've written several books about SharePoint and one about collaboration with Office 365. Yeah, and I'm working with SharePoint since 2007, and nowadays SharePoint is not such a huge topic anymore at our customers. So where you are talking about Microsoft Teams, and if you have some users who use Yammer, they ask me, oh, why should I use Teams if I'm using Yammer? And on the opposite, if somebody started with Teams and he sees, oh, there's something like Yammer, he asks me, oh, what's about this tool? Is it something I can use, or do I have enough to fulfill my use cases when I'm using Teams? So if you look on Microsoft 365 and all the tools, then it can be too much. So if you start with your tenant and then you want to get to make some progress, maybe it's easier to start with only a few of them, and then you see, okay, I'm missing something. Should I use the next tool? For example, Stream is a tool we are introducing a little bit later in our projects with the customers, and we say, okay, forget about the tools and the tool names. Let's talk about your use cases. So we want to discuss what's going on, how do you want to collaborate, and then after this discussion, we can talk about which tools will be the best to fit this purpose. Yeah, and I think the most important use case in your daily work is working together with documents. That was one of the reasons why SharePoint got so famous, because it's easy to work with a document, to share it with somebody else, and then working, for example, in parallel. I love this when I work with my colleagues on a document and you see, okay, this guy has edited the first paragraph and I'm working here in my chapter, and everything is working together. It's such a difference to the past. I think when I remember a few years ago, then we had this, somebody started with a document, then he said, okay, it's ready, that somebody else can continue working on this, and he sent it as an email attachment, and nobody knew what was going on, because maybe this person forwarded this email to another person, and at the end the first editor got 3, 4 or more emails with different versions. And it was a hard task to aggregate all this information. Yeah, but information is the right point, because if you're talking about use cases in your company, then the exchange of information is a very important part as well. So I think it's divided in different parts. So sometimes you have it on an ad hoc base, so you want to chat with somebody, you don't need to store the conversation, you only need the possibility to talk with somebody, and then you have some information which have a company-wide relevance and you want to spread it. So for example, the HR department or internal communication, they want to post some information, everybody should read it. And there's not such a big importance to discuss about this information. Maybe you want to do this, but it's not the main focus. And the last point of exchanging information is some kind of a corporate network. I read many articles where the people talk about Yammer as the Facebook of the company. So it's more a network. I can share information. Somebody else can like it. He can share it with other people and so on. And if you have a good tool for a corporate network, then you could even talk about external networks. For example, if you are in a communication department and you want some kind of discussions with your customers or partners, maybe an external network tool can be very useful for you. Yeah, and here at the bottom of the slide, there are some, I would say, for me, it's more project relevant. So managing tasks and sharing knowledge, that's starting on a project base in my daily business. Then after this, sharing knowledge, for example, is a part in my organization or in other communities where I want to talk with somebody about a special topic. And don't forget to make it complete. Supporting business processes is quite important as well. So I don't want to switch between so many tools during the day. I want an easy way how to do my work, to get, for example, an approval for a request for vacation or something else. I want to share my documents and I want to stay in touch with everybody. And a few years ago, in our company, we had to make a decision about our intranet. At this time, we had a quite old classic intranet, so only a few people were adding information right there. And then we decided, okay, we will start with SharePoint as a base, and we will go with Yammer to connect the people. And we didn't talk about SharePoint and Yammer as tools, so we were talking about our intranet, and we had some kind of a contest. So we were asking the employees how their new intranet should be called. So we got a name. And our name, for example, is Connect, because we want to connect people. And the discussion part, which is technical Yammer, it's called Talk. So it's a talk section. And we have a special room for every organizational unit or for every location, for the project teams and so on, which is basically a SharePoint site. And we added a Yammer group there to do the discussion part. Yeah, and it was quite easy. So it took nearly half a year to introduce the intranet. We had some workshops right there. We were explaining everything, how we thought it should be used. And then Microsoft Teams came up. And because I'm working for the department which is doing the consulting and the developing of small components in the Microsoft 365 area, we were the first ones who tried Microsoft Teams. And yeah, we were talking with some other colleagues of the other organizational units, and so many other people learned that there's a tool like Microsoft Teams. And so we had to talk about when should we use which tool. So first, Microsoft Teams, because it was a new tool. We liked it. We wanted to use it. So I want to tell you a little bit about our purpose for Microsoft Teams. Yeah, for me, yeah, it's the collaboration tool in Office 365. So it's my central entry point. A few years ago, that was Outlook. So Outlook was the first application I opened every morning. Now, for me, it's Microsoft Teams. I get much less emails than before because my internal communication has moved to Microsoft Teams. I have a team for my organizational team. I have teams for my different projects. So the people where I'm working very close and very often. And I really like this possibility that I can integrate other services or other applications. For example, if you need some kind of task management, you can add Planner if you want to use an Office 365 component, or if you are very familiar as a developer with Jira, for example, then you can add this as well in your team. So for example, we are doing this in my developer team. Yeah, and it's not only that you have the conversation part and you can working on files and so on. You have also the ad hoc chat possibility. For example, if you are used to Skype for Business, then Microsoft Teams has the same or better options, I would say. And it's so easy. You start chatting with a person, then you come to the point where you say, okay, it would be easier to call this person. You can do this right off the chat. And if you say, okay, I need somebody else in this conversation, you can add him and you can decide if he has to see the whole history of the chat or if you don't want that he sees this. So you have the options. And for me, that's very important, the video conferencing possibility. So for example, at the moment, everybody is in the home office and I have a daily with my team. We have put the camera on. We are talking about what's going on this day, if somebody has problems. So it's very important for us to stay in touch. And if you have it on your mobile phone, in the past I was traveling a lot of, so that was my main aspect to stay in touch with the team, and it didn't matter where I am. So I think many of you know Microsoft Teams, but only to be clear that we have teams. I like this option that we can create channels, so you get a special structure, and it can be different from team to team, depends on the needs. And you have the option to create private teams or I would say normal teams, standard teams. So I have, for example, a private channel for some management stuff in my team, because otherwise I would have my personal OneNote in OneDrive, and it would have a right relation to the team. So I said, why don't I create a private channel for this? Yeah, and I see every time I see when there are some new news, I have the activity feed, I see the notifications, and if I'm looking on a team, then I see this bold marker that in this channel there are some unread news from my side. You have the search bar. I like the commands to switch between different channels. For example, if you use the go-to command, then it doesn't matter how many teams you have, and if it's a team which shows up directly, or if it's in the hidden teams. You start typing, and he offers you the channels which match to the entered data. Or even if you want to chat with somebody without moving from your team right to the chat section, then you can start with /chat and start this conversation right from here. And last but not least, regarding Teams, you have the part with the external collaboration. So many of our customers say, okay, we are using Microsoft 365 now as well. We are using Teams. Can we create a project team on our side? We add you as a guest, and then we can work together on documents. We can do the conversation we did in the past via email. So it's a little bit different, and you need to switch the talent and go to the team of your customer or partner to work with. And during this time, you leave the focus of your company teams, but you are using the same tools, so you are used to how to start a conversation, how to work on files. It's very easy to work here. Yeah, and what about Yammer? As I said, Teams is for me more the collaboration tool. So it has a relation to working on documents, or working on some tasks and so on, and then having a discussion part. And in Yammer, the focus is a little bit different. So here's the focus, creating a corporate network. I want to have a discussion with somebody. Maybe I want to create some kind of mini polls. So I want to get some information of my colleagues. I have here also the praise functionality, which is now in Teams as well. But maybe here I can get some more people, and I can find colleagues with similar interests or similar topics, and I can follow them. In Teams, I have a special focus. Maybe it's a small project I'm working on, and in Yammer, it's more open. Yeah, in Yammer you have the option to create private groups, and you can create public groups. But if you say, okay, I want some rules, then in Yammer you should create more open groups, so everybody can join a conversation. He can share and find knowledge, and the groups and the topics are hashtags, I would say. These two options are only for structuring your network. So some customers say it's a little bit hard to find information later here in Yammer because there's no metadata management or something else there. And then we have a discussion about the hashtags, so the so-called topics. Yeah, and I think I've only found one company where they're using the topics in the right way, because if you are using this functionality, then you can search for a special topic and you get more information. If you aren't using this option, then it's harder to get the right information. Yeah, and if you have a closer look into Yammer, that's the old Yammer. We know that the new one will show up. It has a much more better design, and in the new Yammer, there are no groups anymore. They are then called communities, and there you can see it's the purpose is going more and more to this network focus. Yeah, you have these groups here. If you compare it to Microsoft Teams, that would be a team, but you don't have here the possibility to create channels for substructuring. You have also some notifications. You can have a private chat. You can mention somebody. So the function comparison is not the best option, because you need to identify your use case and you need to find rules when to use which tool. And here are some best practices. They are working for me and my colleagues. I'm pretty sure that it depends on the special situation, but maybe this helps you. So for Microsoft Teams, it's collaboration in a team, maybe in a distributed team. You can discuss with your team members. You can make some announcements. You can ask the people for information, and you can work together on shared documents, because SharePoint is behind this. You can also add external team members. So you start with your team, maybe it's a private team, and then you have the situation that a customer or maybe an external partner needs this information, and you can make different decisions. So you could say, okay, I don't want this user here in my environment. I will share this information on another way, via email. Or you say, okay, it's great that I can add him here as an external member. He can work together with us, but be aware that he can see your whole conversation in the channels. He can work together with you on the documents. So if you need some private area where he doesn't have access to, then the private channel can be an option. So he will join, he will see everything, but in this private channel, only the people have access to which are added by you or by the team member. Yeah. You can also use a group calendar. So in the past, I was asked quite often regarding SharePoint, what about a group calendar where I can invite everybody and it's added to the calendar of the team members. Here you can have a group calendar and share meetings. And it's very easy to plan Microsoft Teams meetings to support your users from every location. So, for example, at the moment, where many of us are in the home office. And the last collaboration part for me here is the integration of other tools. So if you are using other tools and there is a connector, then you can add this tool maybe as a tab, or if it is a chatbot or something else, you can add it as well. For example, Jira has the option that you can create a new issue right from a discussion. And you can, for example, get the status or some more information of an issue. You can proceed it. So switching to the next state, that's quite easy. Some other best practices are, as I mentioned it very shortly, is that you can manage your daily stand-ups with Teams. So, for example, we have a special channel called Daily, and there we start our daily every day. And if somebody cannot join and we have some important information right there, then we can record this meeting so everybody can watch the recording later on. And that's the same for other meetings and workshops, for example. Even if we had workshops where everybody could attend, we said, okay, let's record this workshop, because maybe 2 weeks or so, I remember that we discussed this during the workshop, but I don't remember every information, and then I can go to the recording and search for this information. Everything is there. You don't need to take notes anymore of a meeting, because if you have the recording, it's much easier to find the right information, and there's no option for failure during taking these notes. Yeah, and channels, as I mentioned, channel, I really love channels, and that's the thing I'm missing in Yammer, for example. Channels I use in very different ways. So, for example, for organizational aspects, we are using the general channel in my team for saying that somebody wants to stay in the home office, or if somebody is sick, that the team is informed. I have a separate channel for strategy and business development, and yeah, that's quite important. You can create a team for a new project, and we are doing this quite often. But we have some small projects where only my team is working on, and then we say, you don't need a whole new team for this. A channel is enough, because we only need to share our documents, and that are not so many of them, and we need some kind of discussions. Yeah, and private channels, that's a question. Everybody was waiting for private channels, and as they came up, many said, yeah, when should I use a private channel? What about the restrictions and so on? Because it's not, it doesn't have the same possibilities as the standard channels have. Yeah, and for me, for example, as I said, it's for management channel, or if there's something I don't want to share with the whole group. For example, if I added external members right there. Yeah, and then some open questions when we look on Teams. How do you connect with other teams? How do you connect with other people? And how do you find other employees with the same interests? And that's Yammer for me. So Yammer is collaboration. So that's some similar, some kind of similar to Teams, but it's also knowledge management, and it's on a company level, while Teams is on a team or working level. So here we have also discussions and announcements. We have the groups and topics as a structuring element, or if you look on the knowledge management, so we can find information when we are using topics. And here you can open your network with externals as well, but you have to decide it on a group level. So if you create a new Yammer group, then you have to decide if it's an internal group or an external group. And if you decide that it's external, then you can add other people via their email address and work together with them. Yeah, public versus private, you have the same option here as in Teams, but for us it works quite good that we say, okay, in Teams you have the more the private groups, and in Yammer you have public groups, so everybody can join a conversation. And then you have the interaction with the people, so you can do some mini polls, you can praise others, and you can follow your colleagues to see what they're doing. That's very similar as you are doing this in private with Facebook, Twitter, and co. Yeah, and then the limitations, you have no option to create a substructure in a group. You cannot start a meeting right off the conversation, and the integration of other tools, that's not so easy at the moment. So does it matter? For me, it's not such a big point because I don't need it in this context, because I want to stay in touch with other people of my company. I want to see what they are discussing, if there are some new topics coming up. And so if you have here in a table layout this comparison, then Teams is for project teams and org units. So it's a collaboration tool, and Yammer is a company network, and it's used for knowledge management. And to wrap it up, what should you do? I don't say that this Teams and Yammer with exactly these rules is the right solution for you, but develop an employee-focused communication strategy. Tools can help, but there's no guarantee that they can solve every problem and even a communication problem. You need to talk with your colleagues or your employees. You need to ask them what they need in their daily work and what is still missing today. So what do they want? What do they need? And then choose the tools and define rules. And these rules need to be clear and easy to understand. If you are a technical person, then it can be quite hard to say, okay, this tool has so many functions and they can support the users. For the user, it's better if you say, okay, I only take these 3 or 4 functions of the tool and I have an easy rule how to use them. And the other ones I have to introduce later on in a version 2 or 3 or later. Communicate these rules, because if nobody knows the rules and they are easy, that's not enough, because they need to understand that these rules are existing, and you have to explain why they are existing. So the purpose is very important, because otherwise the users may do something else because they say it doesn't make sense for them. And if you have done this for the first time, that's not the end. So it's like a never-ending story. Please review your rules regularly and the tools as well, and get more feedback of your employees, and adapt what they are doing, what they are telling to you, and start the circle again and again. And then your whole collaboration world will get better and better, and the users will be quite happy. So that's from my side. Thank you very much. Please rate my session, and I think I will have a look if there are some questions. Oh, so here. Okay. Then, thank you very much.